Morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to the show. FirstContactRadio.com is the place where you can go to find out all the news and information that I'm going to be talking about today. On the right-hand side of the page, you got links. You got daily news. Every day I put the daily news up there. Whatever I talk about, UFO news, same story. So over to the dream spell for our date today. Today is called a white lunar wizard. A white lunar wizard guided by the World Bridger. Now the white is the color of refinement. The lunar tone, tone number 2, is called the tone of challenge. The wizard is the kin for today, and the wizard is all about timelessness. And then our guide, the World Bridger, is about the power of death. Put them all together, we have a phrase for today that says, I polarize in order to enchant. Stabilizing receptivity, I seal the output of timelessness with the lunar tone of challenge. I am guided by the power of death. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Thursday, November 3rd, 2011. So, where are we at today? Well, we've got a lot of news and information. Let's start off today. Let's check our space weather right off the bat. What do you think about that one? Alright, space weather. Here's the important things we want to look at today. We look at our solar wind. It's not quite like it was the other day. Today's under 400. It's 376 kilometers per second. And if we scroll down here, now the planetary K index, if you remember the other day, it was quite high. It was 5. It's a scale that goes from 0 to 9. So 5 is pretty significant within that scale. And today it's down to a 0, and the highest they're expecting it within 24 hours is to be a 2. As far as our flares for today, there's only a 50% chance that there's going to be an M-class flare, and very, very small chance that there's going to actually be an X-class flare. Those are the big ones that we get concerned about, because when those hit, those bring a lot more intensity to them and could impact the Earth if they are directed that way. And if we look at our geomagnetic storm probabilities for today, very low as well, 10%, 15%, and just a little bit higher if you're in a higher latitude. Alright, now the object that we're tracking and paying attention to is this one right here. We're going to talk about this during the course of the show. It's called 2005 YU55, and it's expected to pass by the Earth on the 8th of November. And it's going to pass by at a very close distance, closer to the Earth than the Moon. So we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Nothing here, a new sunspot. Says one of the largest sunspots in years is rotating over the sun's northeastern limb. NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory took this picture in the early hours of November 3rd. And this is a spot measuring 40,000 kilometers wide and at least twice that in length. Spalling Sunspot is an easy target for backyard solar astronomers. 2 or 3 of the sunspot's dark cores are wider than the Earth itself. That's pretty intense to think about, isn't it? Just that a couple of these are wider than the Earth itself. Now it goes on to say that naturally such a large sunspot has potential for strong flares, but NOAA forecasters estimate a 50% chance of M-class solar flares during the next 24 hours. One eruption has already occurred, an M4 flare at 2200 Universal Time on the 2nd yesterday, and it produced a bright flash of extreme UV radiation and hurled coronal mass ejection into space, not headed our way. Alright, so it's always important, I think, to be checking up on what's going here with space weather, because Well, that is important. All right, where are we going to go with news for today? Dirk's not with us today, so I'm just going to surge along here before we jump into... all right, here's where we're going to start. Operation Wall Street. As you know, there's the operation movements now going across the country. They did not catch the media's attention right away. Let's go over here and pull this graphic up. This graphic here is a graphic saying of Gandhi's, "First they ignore you," which applies exactly to the situation. There was a lot of movement going on in the streets of New York, around the Wall Street area, and yet the main news stations that were out in that area chose not to even cover it. Fox News acted like it wasn't even going on. You would go on to the internet and you would find all sorts of information there. How many times did you talk to somebody about it and they would laugh at you about what was going on because Fox News said something otherwise? Well, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And that's kind of what's happening with the situation out there. So what I want to show you is I want to show you some of the winning that's starting to take place because it's very significant and important. Remember 2 weeks ago when Sergeant Shamar Thomas stepped up for the American people out there in New York? He was hollering at the police. Well, that got the attention of other veterans. And then there was the situation that occurred in Oakland last week where Scott Olson was injured. And that even got more attention. And it angered the veterans because they didn't go to war to fight, to come back here to have these kind of things happening in this country. It's not supposed to happen. But it does, and it has been happening. And police brutality, unfortunately, has become a rampant thing across this country. Now, I know, and others know, that the police departments across the country in themselves are not inherently bad. But there are bad apples amongst those organizations, and when they get pointed out, it's the only way your organization is going to get some credibility and integrity back. And that is what is going on with these situations, because people are stepping up, and the more that they step up, the more that all the injustice, the darkness, the bad stuff going on is going to get pointed out. So what we've got going on here, I think this video was the war veterans marching in support of Operation Wall Street. Check this out.
Left, right, left. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Think these wars are really swell. Corporate profits on the rise. Corporate profits on the rise. But soldiers have to bleed and die. Soldiers have to bleed and die. Am I right or wrong? You're right. Are we weak or strong? We're strong. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are the 99%.
And this is the only occupation.
And this is the only occupation
I believe in.
that I believe in.
Woo! For too long, our voices
For too long, our voices
have been silenced, suppressed, and ignored in favor of the voices of Wall Street.
in favor of the voices of Wall Street.
Oh, show your support openly.
Show your support openly.
Raise your voice and say,
Raise your voice and say,
I am a veteran and I am the 99%.
I am a veteran and I am the 99%.
Francisco.
I'm from occupied San Francisco.
My friend Scott was injured last Tuesday.
My friend Scott was injured last Tuesday.
This is unacceptable.
This is unacceptable. We are the 99%.
We swore to protect and serve
We swore to protect and serve
the Constitution of
the Constitution of
the United States of America.
support. We are here to support the Occupy movement. The Occupy movement.
All right, here we go. Try again. All right, now you'll hear it. Sorry about that, folks. A little technical difficulty.
A Marine outraged with police treatment of Occupy Wall Street protesters.
Why are y'all treating people like this? Why are y'all gearing up like this? This is not war!
Has inspired a movement. America's war veterans have come out onto the streets of New York to publicly support the Occupy Wall Street movement. Let's find out what has led them out here.
Our constitutional rights are being curtailed, and we all served for them.
Another catalyst for anger, former Iraq war veteran Scott Olson unconscious after being injured in Occupy Oakland protests last week.
What's your name? What's your name?
With a moment of silence, the veterans showed this brutality just won't fly with them.
What do you think about veterans joining Occupy Wall Street? Do you think it's a strong message?
After Scott Olson, veterans are untouchable.
Veterans of all ages who have served their country at war are now fighting for change at home.
Veterans definitely do represent many of the struggles that all Americans are going through. We have extremely high unemployment rates.
These veterans also see themselves as the 99%.
The very wealthy are not paying their fair share and so forth. So I believe in that, and I think most people do, and so I'm here to support that.
Traditionally, these veterans have been standing up against America's wars, but today they're walking past the New York Stock Exchange calling for a complete revamp of America's financial system. What makes you angry about the system?
Right now, I feel like corporations and banks and Wall Street currently have a disproportionately large voice in our government as compared to the citizens. I feel like citizens of America deserve a government that will listen to them, be accountable to them, and be transparent. And right now we don't have that.
Iraq veterans against the war are marching through the streets of New York City to get to Zuccotti Park, the biggest Occupy Wall Street encampment in the U.S. War veterans are greeted at the Occupy Wall Street New York camp with cheers. People here believe that veterans joining the crowds will give more credibility to the movement.
The fact that they're ready now to really open their voice and let it be heard, I think is incredible, and I think it's really going to help with the movement in a huge way.
And as a World Trade Center first responder, I'm right up there with them, as a matter of fact. Because like them, I myself have got literally spit on by the system.
Even those not active in the protests are supportive.
Do you
I
think
happen
this
to
gives
be
it
a
more
veteran
credibility?
myself, and I'm not surprised that they would do that since they're very conscious of what's happening in this country right now. So I didn't know they were joining them, so I'm very happy to hear that.
Tens of thousands of soldiers are supposed to return from Iraq come winter. The people here say this will only amplify the number of outraged veterans in the United States who say they have been forgotten by the system.
It's the first time that Americans, stunned by the 2008 meltdown, have reacted. And you can just feel that small as this still may be, and it's large enough, it's supported by an enormous percentage of Americans to some degree or another. I think it's a real change of mood in America.
The Constitution of!
A change of mood increasingly difficult to ignore, with those who fought for the U.S. abroad now forced to fight for the U.S. at home. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.
All right, very good. That's very good news for the support movement to see the veterans stepping up because it is very necessary. They served this country well. They didn't serve it to have these kind of atrocities taking place. Quick reminder here. Is the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. If you're not familiar with the Constitution of the United States, I suggest that you take some time, do a little bit of research. It doesn't take much. Simply go to the internet, put into the search engine Constitution of the United States, and push the button. And that quickly, information will come up where you can start looking into it. You need to know what your rights are, because if you don't know what your rights are, they're going to get trampled all over, and that's what's been going on. Too much crime, too much corruption, too much of your rights being trampled on. But it's good to know people are waking up, because only when you're awake can you deal with the situation that's taking place. What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brothers watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if by land and two if by sea? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth. All right, it's time to demand the truth.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. I got a couple of stories here today. First one is going to bring us over to educatinghumanity.com. Kansas City and the metro area continued to experience more UFO sightings. I was in the car with my daughter-in-law and two small grandsons while trick-or-treating last night, We were stopped at a light in a busy street when I noticed a huge circular object moving right toward us from the north. It had pulsating and blinking multicolored lights as well as extremely bright white lights. It came very close and hovered all over the cars and the buildings in several light changes. Everyone who saw it just sat where they were, then slowly began to move off towards the southwest. All right, let's take a look at this. All right. It's come to us from Sheila Alien. She puts out a lot of videos, which is good. Okay, here we go, right there. Okay. All right, there you go. Oh no, that's the street lights. All right, you can see it right up there a little bit better. Okay. All right, I don't know how good you could really see that. Let's see here. All right. Very cool. All right, that video is up there at our playlist. That's on YouTube for today for UFO news on the right-hand side of the page. Now, this story came out here last month. This has to do with Mars. JP Skipper put this out there. It says, this report is about evidence that was drawn from Google Mars, brought to my attention by viewer Mark Wells. Note that the coordinates are given on each image to facilitate verification in Google Mars. Note that in order that the first through fourth images are of some possible civilization evidence in the form of a transport system on the Mars surface. Second will be fifth through sixth images of evidence of surface water in a liquid state in the crater system. And finally, the single seventh image showing a wide-angle context view relationships at both of these different evidence sites have been the vicinity of the now famous Hale crater site and its civilization evidence. So here we go. All right, the first one here, if you notice, there's an object that it says here it's tracking. An object is tracking or traveling on a track system right here. And you could see this very, very straight line that's going all the way through here. And right here is where he notices that the track system terminates into a rough depression that may contain buildings. And this is probably some building structure in here. Alright, now nature just doesn't normally make things like this. Nature makes all sorts of amazing images and so on, but this straight line definitely is something a bit more than meets the eye. Alright, now we're going to move down here. You can see things are a little bit different. Look at this, how it's, even a little bit different kind of look there. It says, this image offers a closer view of the mid-area of the track system and the object that appears to be traveling on it. Note that the object appears in a resolution, compromised imagery to a pointed end, and is casting a shadow to its right. However, the darkness of the object's right side may be an illusion created by an obscuring smudge treatment, as it is pitted at sectional, look like the track itself. Okay. Now we're going to move down here. Alright, and now a little bit more of a closer up look here. Okay, now what we got here, I think this is the same track system. Alright, now we're getting into the area of the crater water. It says the above fifth image with its wide-angle context view demonstrates the location of the crater water evidence site just to the right of the center of the image. I'm guessing right in here. As you can see, other craters around this one are also suggestive of being water sites. In this more distant view, and probably are. However, most of these are more visibly compromised by the combination of false color and smudge that carpet this entire strip, and therefore less revealing when closely examined. Okay. Kind of does look like drops of water from up high. We all know what water looks like. Okay. And it says, however, as you can see in the above sixth image, closer view of the crater water site, the surface water in a liquid state evidence is very strong in this crater. Note the very pronounced leveling effect of the water surface all around the interior of the dual impact crater, creating a shoreline on both craters' interior walls, all at the same level. Okay. See right here, all around. And then we're going to come down here, and you can see a bit more of a higher up view of this. And the seventh image provides a more distant wide angle view of all of these evidence sites and their physical location and relationship to each other. So the bottom line is there's activity going on Mars, which is something you're not normally hearing about in the mainstream or most anywhere else unless you really search for it. However, they did put the information, the pictures out there, so the reason that this is coming up is there are those searching Google Mars and the places where you can search to dig this up. It's not like NASA's putting this out to the public saying, hey, look what we found on Mars. They're actually being quite quiet about it. Now, this article here is an article from UFO Digest. W. Drake, the British researcher who preceded von Daniken with alien tales from the ancient world. W. Raymond Drake is little known these days, but his research into the ancient astronaut theory knows few equals. Read how the late British historian broke new ground in understanding the mysterious origins and developments of humankind. Do you think ancient astronauts are only relevant to our past? Learn some of the connections between the gods of old and the present-day UFO phenomena. Prophecies from the Hopis and the Incas are being fulfilled right before our eyes. How did the indigenous natives know the future? Well, W. Raymond Drake's work preceded that of Eric von Daniken and Zechariah Sitchin. Own the new reprints of two Drake's classic works and see how all this began. Goes on to say that one of the most popular shows in cable television these days is a weekly program on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens. Is partially the brainchild of the man with the wild hair, the editor of the publication Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsakakoulis. He's also the U.S. representative for the writer and researcher who started it all in terms of public awareness, Eric von Daniken. Indeed, when one hears the words ancient astronauts or ancient aliens, most people think immediately of von Daniken and his breakthrough bestseller, Chariots of the Gods, first published in the U.S. in 1968. While we do not seek to undervalue von Daniken's work, it is still important for the student of ancient astronauts theory to also factor in the work of W. Raymond Drake, the late British historian, who was researching and publishing on the notion of the gods of old were visitors from outer space years before von Daniken began to make his name for work along very similar lines. So who was our Drake? Well, for one thing, he was a disciple of Charles Fort and followed in that famed researcher's footsteps by studying in exquisite detail the writings of the ancient chroniclers of the times, when man had no technology of his own to speak of, and so greeted the UFOs and their occupants as gods come down from the heavens in the book about ancient Mediterranean strange relationship with sky people. Drake utilized over 50 writers of antiquity and scrutinized their works through a UFO lens. He spent years digging through huge archives of material looking for anomalies that could support his theories of space aliens impacting human history. As Drake himself said, I aspired to collect as many facts as possible from the ancient literature to chronicle for the past what Charles Fort has brilliantly done for the present century. Now I'm going to skip ahead here because I want you to see this. The chapter also tells the story of the Star Child, a misshapen, child-sized skull found in Mexico in the late 20th century. The skull is structured to hold more cubic centimeters than a brain than a normal human skull, and has other anomalous features, as well as current caretaker is an expert on hominids named Lloyd Pye. and he believes that the skull may be evidence of the interbreeding between aliens and human females, a phenomenon mentioned in the Bible and also in the myths of Greece and Rome and other civilization. Pi's story is a fascinating one and dovetails nearly with the idea of the gods returning to claim what is theirs. Another researcher, Angela Sangster, contributed a chapter on the kachina mask worn by some of the Native Americans in their ceremonial dances. The masks are intended to pay tribute to the gods from the sky that have intervened on their people's behalfs down through the ages, rescuing the hapless natives from floods, drought, and famine, and keeping the watchful eye over the civilization even now. Joshua Shapiro, known as the Crystal Skull Explorer, explains how century-old crystal skulls found through Mexico and other locales south of the border are crucially important to our understanding of the ancient people and their interaction with the aliens. The skulls could not have been carved using primitive tools and skills of the people there, or most likely, at least first given as a gift to the people by the aliens. Today, the skulls continue to emit a palpable psychic energy that can be felt by sensitives and at times the uninitiated. Many of the skulls are on display in museums throughout the world, and great many are in the hands of private collectors. Shapiro recounts the personal stories of some of the people who came to own the skulls, demonstrating there is a predetermined reason someone has a skull come to his life. Fate somehow decrees that a skull finds its owner, and the event is in no way a random one. Shapiro owns a few skulls himself, and the book includes a bonus section of photos of the skulls along with the commentary from Beckley detailing the UFO crystal skull connection. And let's see, there's something here, a particular place I wanted to make attention to. Let's see here. Publisher Beckley comments on the recent UFO sighting flap in New York City that got considerable press coverage, but notes that the media did not mention a possible link between the sightings and the appearance of several Mayan elders who were in Manhattan visiting representative countries of the United Nations. They had journeyed from their homeland with 13 crystal skulls to focus on the phenomena known as 2012. They declared that while the world would not end as many doomsday seers predicted, a wave of renewed spiritual values could help our planet into a golden age of enlightenment. These elders came with their skulls to energize the populace. Some 500 truth seekers from local Edgar Cayce Society attended a seminar the day before the mass UFO sightings, and within 2 blocks, something the public and the press remain unaware of. So, I wanted to bring that to your attention because, at this present time, there is a contingency of, let me find it right here, a contingency of Mayan elders making their way across the country with crystal skulls. They're bringing them across because it's very important that we understand and allow these energies to open up. We have this article there. There's a crystal ceremony. It's going to culminate in Los Angeles next week. And next week at the Sheraton Gateway Hotel, the ceremony is going to take place there on the 11th. It's actually a whole weekend conference that's taking place. Now, this is quite extraordinary that they would be out there with the skulls, and then you have the mass sightings which are taking place. Of course, it is, no coincidence, because the technology that of the crystal skulls doesn't come from this Earth. It's down here on the Earth. It's used on the Earth, but it's been passed down by the space brothers and space sisters, by the star nations. So therefore, they're very important and integral to the change that's going on, because as I keep telling you, we're in the midst of a galactic graduation, and we are being reactivated with energies that we have not had in the past. Now, the reason everything moves according to a time and a season, the reason that we haven't been open to these energies in great number in the past is because we're not ready for them. You see, energy can be amplified. And what these crystal skulls and crystal energy does is amplify energy. This is what went on in Atlantis. If you recall the interview from Monday I did with Kirby Seed, we talked about these kind of things. Atlantis was a place that used a lot of crystals and crystal energy. Well, crystal will amplify that energy on one of its things that it does. With all of the darkness and negativity in the world right now, could you imagine if that darkness was amplified? It wouldn't be a good thing. It didn't turn out very well for Atlantis. Atlantis sank because there was too much darkness in the land at that period of time, and it was too much for the land to deal with because people were so psychically connected with the land, with the weather, and that as people became more corrupt, the land and the weather, well, they suffered the effects of this corruption. It's very important that before humankind really takes this next step of evolution, that they have to rise up. Humans need to rise themselves up in consciousness to be able to accept the teachings of the Space Brothers, the Space Sisters, the Star Nations. We're getting to that point, and these type of ceremonies, these type of activities bring us closer and closer to that point. So if you feel yourself called to go to an event like this, or to go out and pick up a crystal skull or find something of that nature, notice that you're doing something that is definitely in synchronicity with UFOs and aliens, with our ancient past, and it's part of our future. What's going on, my friends, and what happened back there in Atlantis in those times, so far back in the past, it's actually the future. That's what's coming up. Stay tuned, my friends. I'll be right back.
You know that more people get news and information now from alternative media like First Contact with Joshua Poet. It's now becoming a legitimate form of news and information. And that's important. And Joshua Poet takes it very seriously. And every one of these stories is heavily researched before it goes out there, so that it's guaranteed to have nothing but the truth.
All right. Thanks, Dirk. All right, I am back now. Our next bit of information is going to take us over to Thrive. There's a movement called Thrive, and they've released a series of infographics on our financial system. You may have heard about this bank transfer day movement that's going on. Well, this is a little bit more of a information about it for you. The bank transfer day movement is calling for people to move their money from large corporate banks to local community banks and credit unions. This is an example of a proactive, nonviolent, non-participant strategy. Gandhi used successfully in India, and Martin Luther King relied on in the civil rights movement. Our financial system is corrupt at its core, as were the SALT laws in India and the segregation in the United States. Moving our money out of the big centralized banks sends a clear message that we will not support them with our deposits or be part of their corrupt practices. As advocates for local banking, we recognize that changing banks can feel like a big step, so we want to provide a simple 3-step guide to help people make the best choices when looking to transfer their money. So what you can find here is information on exactly how to do that. They got video over here, some nice great graphics that you can follow, a real simple process of how to go and do this. It says feel free to download the image along with any other information, illustrations, and the video on the right sidebar. The aim is to help people to know how to transfer banks, but to help you understand why they should, by illustrating how rigged the financial system is. We can stop funding the problem and start funding the solution all in one move. Find out what else we can do to reclaim our lives and our future and to thrivemovement.com on 11/11/11 when we release the expansive website and unconventional documentary film Thrive. What on earth will it take? It's in 11 languages. So there you go. So we got the link up at our page, Daily News for Today. I want you to check that out because this is taking place. November 5th is a day, bank transfer day, and it's an important time. And it goes hand in hand with what's taking place out there on Wall Street with all the movements that are taking place, not just on the Occupy Wall Street, but across the country. People are stepping up. Too much corruption in the world. This corruption cannot be allowed to happen anymore because, well, it's making good people look bad, and there's too many good people in the world to allow this to happen. This corruption of the banks, it affects the entire world, not just here in the United States. Now, there's an event coming up very soon that you need to be aware of. The FCC has released a handbook for the nationwide EAS test. It's the first FCC form to be filled out now in anticipation of the November 9 test. Now you can see it's a quite lengthy thing. It goes on to say the FCC has released its handbook specifically directed to the nationwide EAS alert that will occur on November 9th. The handbook is to be posted to all stations that are participants in the EAS network, which is virtually all stations, for the purpose of this test only. Stations should also have the standard EAS handbook at their control points, but this handbook will be used for the nationwide test. Cable systems are all participating in the EAS system that are included in the test as well. As we have written before, the November 9th test is the first time the emergency broadcast system, originally adopted in the 60s as the emergency broadcast system, will be tested for a national alert, even though that was the original and remains the primary focus of the EAS system. EAS is now used mostly for localized weather and Amber Alert. So, on the 9th of November, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, 11 o'clock on the West Coast, they're going to be doing a test of the emergency broadcast system. But it's not just in your local area. This is going across the entire country. They're going to take over the cable, anything FCC, cable, television, radio. There's even some concerns or talk that it might extend out to cell phones as well. What is the purpose of this? Not quite known. There's a lot of speculation. It appears that the test is going to last for 3 minutes. Normally they're like 2-minute tests, and so there's question, why is this one going longer? What is this one about? And if you were to go through the forums online and see what some of the discussion is, you're going to find a lot of thoughts. Everything from the announcement that there's a huge asteroid coming our way to the possibility, and some thinking that there's going to be some sort of signal being broadcast that subliminally is going to be affecting others out there. Or is it just a test? I don't know. But this is quite suspicious indeed, the whole thing, and it really coincides with an event that's taking place. This asteroid I talked about earlier, this 2005 YU-55, it is the size of, it's listed now as 200 meters. For the longest while, it was listed at 178 meters. Now, I know that's not a big difference, 22-meter difference. However, why did it change all of a sudden? It used to be at one size. Weren't NASA or those who were doing the measurements aware for all this time what the actual size is? Why did it suddenly change and now it's bigger? It's the size. It's larger than 2 football fields, and it's going to pass closer to the Earth than the moon. Now, there's a lot of speculation there. Let me take you to this article over here. This comes to us from the Intel Hub. It's a detailed analysis of asteroid 2005 YU-55. It says, recently there have been many stories reporting on the near-Earth object known as 2005 YU-55 that is set to pass by Earth as well as the moon on November 8th and 9th. But one very important question is yet to be conclusively proven. Will 2005 actually hit the Earth or the moon? Will fragments hit the Earth or the moon? Well, that's the big speculation. There's a video here. It's 23 minutes in length. I'm going to encourage you to watch this video that gets into a discussion of what could go on, the trajectories. You know, it's really good information right here. So we've got this asteroid that's passing by closer than the moon on the 8th, 9th. We have the emergency broadcast system test on the same time. And out in the oceans, they're going to be doing tests on tsunamis, tsunami drills, to see if people are ready for those. All of these are coinciding. FEMA is part of these. Homeland Security is part of these. It's not something that's being done in other countries around the world. This is all seems to be about the United States, focused on something going on here. Now, one thing we certainly know is whenever FEMA does get involved with some sort of activity, there's usually something more than meets the eye. FEMA's not usually always forthright. I'm not saying they're a bad organization, because there's a lot of good people that are out there part of it, but the people that are part of it on the lower levels aren't the ones making the decisions on the higher levels. They're just following through with the plans, the tests. Remember 9/11, there was a lot of things that were considered tests that were taking place, and the military in particular was, they kind of had their hands tied because they were following all these tests and these programs that when the real thing was going on, they claimed they didn't know the difference. Well, were these really tests, or was this a real false flag event that was taking place and the tests were used as a cover so that they couldn't respond? These are some of the questions being asked out there. They're good questions because in the past you can find evidence that our governments here in the United States and around the world have pulled false flag events on their people. They tell them there's a test going on and something happens. Remember the bombing in the train station there in the UK? It was a test that was taking place. They were doing a drill, an exercise they called it. And at the same time, in the same location where they had the exercise, what do you know? A bomb went off. What a coincidence, right? Good thing they were there doing that exercise at that exact same time, because if they weren't, it would have taken them a lot longer to get there. And then, of course, 9/11, we know about the test then. It goes on, folks. It goes on and on. I know there are those out there who don't want to believe in that our governments would do these kind of things. Well, get over it, because they have. Now it's time to figure out how to stop them from doing it, because if you don't stop them from doing it by speaking up and spreading the word, they're going to continue to do these kind of things. And next time, you might be someone who's caught in the middle of that, and that's not a good thing for you or anybody involved. Now, Richard Hoagland, he talks about YU-55, and he thinks it's going to hit the moon. Says in the last month, the Intel Hub has covered the suspicious events leading up to the planned November 9th event. The size of an aircraft carrier set to pass, startling close to Earth between the 9th and the 11th, which is around the exact same time that numerous drills are set to commence, including the FEMA FCC takeover simulation, as well as the massive tsunami drill I just mentioned. Now, here's the story here. It's 42 minutes in length. Not going to play it here, but Richard Hoagland puts forward the idea that people within a secret space program have possibly changed the trajectory of YU-55. Well, this information, not confirmed independently, lines up directly with the recent reports that have been received. So I think it's very important. Check this out. A lot of great information, something to think about, because this event is only a week away. And now, this all brings us around full circle here to Project Bluebeam, because this is part of the mix as well. Now, Project Bluebeam, you heard Norio talking about this in our interview the last couple days. Project Bluebeam is a military project that uses holographs, a holographic system that will project into the sky, the same way a movie projects onto a screen, different images. And there are a number of things that they want to do with this Project Bluebeam. Serge Monast was a gentleman who spent some time he was a journalist and a researcher, and he put forth a lot of this information. And here are some of the things that Project Bluebeam are wanting to do. Let me go down here. Well, what you're going to find that they want to do is there's 4 different stages to this. They want to set up events in the sky. Let me see, here we go. The infamous NASA Project Bluebeam has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the world government, without which religion, the dictatorship of the New World Order, is completely impossible. So, step number 1, engineered earthquakes and hoax discoveries. The first step in the NASA Bluebeam project concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup of artificially created earthquakes at a certain precise location on the planet, supposed new discoveries which will finally explain all the people the error of the fundamental religious doctrines. Okay, then the second step is the big space show in the sky. And this involves a gigantic space show with 3-dimensional holographic sounds, laser projection of different images to different parts of the world. They want to show people a couple of different things. One, they want to show you, religious individuals in the sky. Maybe some country might see an image of Jesus, or some countries might see Buddha or Krishna. Depending on where you're at and what your beliefs are, this is what they want to project up there. They want to use and this Project Bluebeam works in conjunction with HARP. They also want to use this to be able to go down and get into your heads so that you think you're hearing voices and sounds, because they use these electromagnetic frequencies to go in the mess with you. This is where, you heard the idea of people in the tin hats and the tinfoil hats kind of comes out of this idea of some way of protecting the brain, because these ideas are certainly out there, and it's not too far from reality of what can be done. And the last part of Project Bluebeam is to simulate an alien invasion, to have you think that there is something going on that really isn't going on. And that, well, that's could fool a lot of people, actually. You know, there's a lot of things the military does which are quite suspect. There's a lot of good things that they do, but there's a lot of things that the higher up within the military are involved with. These black projects. You heard Norio talking a lot about them. You know, what's going on in Dulce in Area 51. I had an experience. I was out in the New Mexico area just outside of White Sands Missile Range and Holloman Air Force Base. And one night, as I was looking up into the sky towards the base, towards White Sands, I happened to notice an electrical storm that took place. Now, electrical storms happen all the time. And I watched for a while, and I very soon recognized that this electrical storm had a pattern to it. It would first go here, and then it would go here, and then here, and then here. And it kept doing it over and over and over for like 20 minutes. And after watching and seeing the same thing, I realized I wasn't just watching an electrical storm, but something was taking place there that was being tested. Some sort of military technology seemed to be going on out there. And when I talked to a few individuals that lived in the area, they said, oh yeah, that happens all the time. Sometimes it looks like a war of the worlds taking place out there. Strangely enough, the day after this happened, there was a hurricane that did pop up in the Bermuda Triangle area. Now, prior to this event, I had been doing some research, and when I came to find out an article about NASA learning to create earthquakes and hurricanes, and along with that story, it talked about hurricanes, the Bermuda Triangle, Holloman Air Force Base. And after I saw the event at in the Holloman Air Force Base area, and I heard about a hurricane, I kind of got curious, and when I found out that the hurricane popped up in the Bermuda Triangle area, I thought, well, that's kind of weird, because these are the 3 points that were talked about in the very article that I had read. So there's something going on, something being created and happening out there. Project Bluebeam is definitely a reality. These cloud seedings that are taking place, the chemtrails that are in the sky, quite possibly part of this process, seeding the sky to make some sort of a background screen. So when you look at it, you're going to think that you are seeing a movie, and you won't know the difference unless you're able to somehow see through the holographic technology. And perhaps there will be a way that we can do that. Perhaps somebody's working on that possibility right now. So it's something to pay attention to. And the very last story I want to bring up here before we get into our meditation, this is Anonymous. Now, Anonymous has been out there, and they've been keeping an eye on things, which is quite awesome that they're doing this, because there's a lot of corruption in the world, and Anonymous has been doing things like taking some of this darkness and corruption off the web. We hear periodically these messages they put out. Here's one of them. I want you to listen to this.
Greetings, Judge Adams. We are Anonymous. Your recent actions have been atrocious, unjust, and as an individual who represents families in judicial disputes, we expected more of you. We have witnessed you mercilessly beating your own disabled daughter for simply browsing the internet or downloading music. We are outraged. Such aggression against a child will not stand, especially by someone who has assumed the duty to protect families. However, how ironic it is that this leak was not made by the discerning public, but from the victim, your own daughter. The heartless beating of another human being, especially the one of a child, is a terrible crime that will not go unnoticed. To speculate the least, you yourself know, as a parent, that she has a disability, and given that she was of such a young age, her understanding may not be as advanced as your own. However, as human beings, we have evolved not to abuse and incite violence, but to understand and learn. You clearly represent the intelligence of a Neanderthal, and as such, you deserve to be treated like the brute that you are. You may have seen your actions justified, but to a young girl, she does not understand the nature of your aggression. Your actions show you to be a terrible parent, an abhorrent human being, and as such you deserve to be outcast by the society that respects and abides by your final word. Therefore, we have decided that you shall receive the full fury of Anonymous. We shall continue to wage war against you until you have paid the price for your reprehensible actions. We will not cease our attacks until you have done so. We demand a public apology to both the people of Texas and to your daughter. Further, we demand your immediate resignation from the bar and retirement from any form of judiciary action or law enforcement. Should you choose to continue to assert that it looks worse than it was, we shall continue our actions against you until you see the abhorrent nature of your actions and comply with our demands. We protect the innocent. We fight for the oppressed. We shall avenge. Operation Dox the Judge engaged. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
All right, very important that these things go on. This is a judge presides over child abuse cases, beating his own daughter. Now this video is making its way around the internet, and I know a lot of people are becoming outraged by it. Obviously, Anonymous is one of those. So this should be a good warning to all of those out there that are involved with corrupt practices, because this isn't the only judge. There's a lot of judges that we are aware of that are corrupt. Just like police officers we know are corrupt. They're giving bad names to the organizations they are part of, because not all judges are like that. Not all police officers are like this. There are only a few bad apples. So we're going to get the bad apples out and replace them with people and beings that should be in there doing the right job with integrity. That's the important part, and that's what we are supposed to do. Not just here in this country, but all around the world, to stand up for the rights of those who can't stand up for themselves, to protect the innocent. That's what we're about. That's what goodness is all about. So, darkness, beware. The light has returned, and darkness, you're on your way out. So, there we go. Now, last but not least, let's get to our meditation for the day. All right. Close your eyes and relax. I want you to imagine yourself walking along a path. We walk along the path because that is what we do every day. It is what we know. We keep moving, and we keep moving. Every day there are challenges along the path. And see the challenges before you as you walk along. And you step over the things that get in your way. You walk around some of them. And you keep moving. And that, my friends, is the secret. To keep moving. To keep showing up. To keep enduring. Because as the endurance continues, eventually the enduring one continues and wins. They succeed by continuing to show up. The darkness is worn down. The enemy cannot stand up against this. And eventually goodness happens. So imagine yourself walking and walking and walking. And the more you walk, the more strength you find. The more you are able to endure, the more you are able to endure. And as you continue to walk, you grow in wisdom. So imagine the wisdom growing within your mind, growing within your heart. Imagine the courage and strength that you gain as you continue to endure. And as you look along the path and you look to the right and to the left and you see others walking with you, you feel the synchronicity that exists as you all are walking of one thought. And you notice that there are those who periodically drop off the path. They drop off the path because they were not of the same integrity. They were not willing to continue moving forward because they did not have their ideas based in truths. Therefore, the endurance that was required did not last. And as you see these types of progressions happening, you become even more encouraged. You become strengthened even more. And let's imagine that all of our chakras are turned on. From the bottom of the spine, the color red, drawing the energy up from the earth and rising that energy up to the chakra above it, to the belly button area, and imagine the color orange. Raise the energy up from that second chakra to the chakra above it, just below the rib cage. Imagine the color yellow. From that chakra, raise the energy up higher to the heart chakra. Imagine the color green. From the green heart chakra, raise the energy up higher to the throat. Imagine the color blue. From the blue throat chakra, raise the energy up to the third eye. Imagine the color violet. From the third eye, raise the energy up to the top of your head. Imagine the color indigo, and the light continues on into the cosmos, connecting you above and below. A child of the earth and the sky, moving along the path. As your body is filled with this multicolored energy from all of the chakras, it fills your body and overflows. And as it overflows, you should notice a line of light around your body. Your spiritual armor is extending from the inside out. Let's imagine from the heart chakra now that we're sending love. The color green is the heart chakra. Let's imagine sending this love all around the planet. Imagine everybody doing the same thing and seeing the planet immersed in this green colored light of love. Send this love down into the planet. Send it up into the cosmos. Send it to each other. Take a deep breath. Exhale. And let's just think a good thought for the world for today. Wish everybody a good day. Send thoughts of encouragement along the way. And with that, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment, and do so on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it, my friends. That's the end of our show and our meditation. Go out into the world today and keep enduring. By showing up, by enduring, you're going to make it through to the end, because nothing can stop you. You're imbued with the Spirit of God, of the great Creator, and nothing can stop that Spirit. Nothing can stop that power. Only the illusion that comes in to try to stop you. But once you get past that illusion, you realize God cannot be stopped. God continues on. And God will continue on. And God resides within you and everyone else. So keep enduring, my friends. Have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here.